What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today, I am getting into NBA power rankings. Yes, quite interesting of a week for the NBA. We're going to have some sections where you're not going to see a lot of movement because I still think this is what these teams are. And then some sections where you're just going to see some other teams right there. In some sections, we're just going to see a lot of movement because this was a pretty weird week for NBA basketball. So anyway, let's get into it, starting out with number 30 on my list, and that's going to easily be the Thunder. Staying at the same spot. I mean, they did get a win this week, but also a big storyline before I talk about the Thunder. No undefeated teams remain, but there's also no winless teams remaining, so that's pretty crazy to think that this early on, we're only a couple weeks in, there's still no undefeated teams, but even more crazy, there's still no winless teams, because sometimes the NBA can be predictable, and sometimes those bad teams just never win. And that's going to be, the Thunder. Basically what I said about them was from last week, so check out my vid if you want to know about them, but even though they upset the Lakers, obviously that's going to happen in basketball, they're still a very bad team. And then number 29, Magic, staying at the same spot but dropping down a tier at 1-5. I just don't have faith in the Magic. I think that their roster is just not complete. They're still rebuilding. Jalen Suggs, I mean, he is the bright point of this team. He is going to be their type player, but I mean, it's still the Magic, and this is the one of the worst teams in the league. So, staying at the same spot right there. And then I'm just going to throw out these two teams. This is very close. Staying at the same spot from last week, the Pistons, Rockets. For Rookie of the Year, I don't know which one it's going to be. Both these players, I could see it being Kate Cunningham and Jalen Green. I'm leaning towards Cade at the moment, but the reason why the Rockets are ahead of the Pistons is because I think the Rockets have a more complete team. Barely, though, with the John Wall and all that. I think the Rockets, they just have a better surrounding them, but the Pistons it's very close between these two teams. But again, kind of like the Thunder and the Magic, what I said last week, basically what I thought about these teams, and it didn't change. All right, moving on to number 26, and this is a huge team dropping down. Man, the Pacers, a 1-6 start, 0-5 this week. They were up there in the hunt tier at number 22, just dropped down 5 this week because of a horrible performance. But, I mean, the Pacers, you look at this team, and you just gotta think, oh my goodness, this team is bad. And that is what this team is. They are a bad basketball team from this week. And, I mean, obviously I think the Pacers can be competitive. And in the hunt team, they got the pieces, and they got the culture. They got the standpoint. It's just expected from a Pacers team to be competitive over the last few years. But right now it's not looking good, and they're sitting at number 26. And then number 25, staying at the same spot, the Pelicans. Bad a week, but really they dropped down from last week. They dropped down 5. Just like the Pacers, these two teams are in very similar situations. Pelicans, we obviously know, went 1-3 this week, so they got their first win, but the Pelicans right now, clearly they need Zion back, and clearly they need to turn things around or Zion's out of there. And then moving on to number 24 is going to be the Cleveland Cavs. If I can find them, jumping up a couple spots. Mainly due to the Pacers dropping down a spot and another bad week from the Pelicans. But the Cavaliers You look at this team, and so far they've proven to be competitive. They're 3-4. They got some wins over the Nuggets, and they're just being competitive. We saw this week. They went 2-2, so even that out. And right now they're in the hunt, but I don't think they're going to be an in the hunt team by the end of this year. I still think that they're the most competitive team out of this bad tier, but clearly the Cavaliers just are not good enough, I think, for me to see them in the play-in tournament by the end of the year. All right, moving on to this next tier in the hunt tiers. Obviously, this is a tier of teams that I think could make the play-in tournament, but I'm not betting on it. And that's going to start out with number 23. It's going to be the Clippers. Clippers, 1-4 start, dropping down 5 spots from last week. I didn't want to overreact last week, but, Paul George clearly missing Kawhi. This team not looking good without him. And if they can't turn it around, he might be just waiting till next season when the Kawhi comes back. But Paul George, he's got to prove that he can do this. He's got to prove he can make plays happen and get this team to be good, or else they're screwed. So yeah, the Clippers sitting at number 23. Moving on to number 22, staying at the same spot, the Spurs. You look at San Antonio, again, kind of like some of these other teams that are staying at the same spot. I already knew what this team is, and if you're interested in the Spurs, go and talk last time. They're just a competitive team and very well coached. Basically the Pats, but in NBA style. So, all right, so let's move on to number 21. That's going to be the Raptors, jumping up 3 spots. You look at Toronto, 4-3, an impressive start to the season. Had them at number 24, and an impressive week for this team, going 3-1. But the Raptors, I still don't have faith in them. This Eastern Conference has proven to be a very difficult conference, but 2 very similar teams between the Raptors and the Spurs, where I think these 2 teams are very competitive. But and very well coached, but I'm not counting on them making the playoffs. The edge for the Raptors, just barely sneaking out that record, I think. But Raptors, an impressive week, jumping up 3 spots. Another team jumping up 3 spots is going to be the Timberwolves, who are going to be in our play-in tournament tier to start out this. Man, the Timberwolves, very impressive start from them at 3-2. And this is starting to look like the Timberwolves that we saw at the end of the season last year. They looked like a team that could pull some upsets with Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. This is a good basketball team on paper. It's just starting to pick it up. They're starting to communicate better. They're starting to find out their style. That's why the big difference for this Timberwolves teams this season. And I think that they're going to be a play-in tournament team, a very dangerous team that you do not want to play this season. But the Timberwolves at number 23. And then jumping up a couple, jumping a spot, we have the Kings at 19. Another impressive week for the Kings. Have had a difficult starting schedule, but I'm impressed with Sacramento, 3-3. This is just a different team than last year. This team looking very solid, and I think that they're going to be a play-in tournament team by the end of the year, barely sneaking out that edge over the Timberwolves. But Darren Fox, Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, this backcourt is very good, and it's going to get better, I think, throughout the season. They're definitely a play-in tournament team. And then moving on to number 18 will be the Celtics, dropping down a spot. Another frustrating week for this team. I do think that this team, is a good team. But I just really see this team being like last year. Not improving this season, this free agency at all, really. And you look at the Celtics with a very much improved Eastern Conference. I think I said AFC earlier, but Eastern Conference that is looking like maybe even better than the Western Conference. It's pretty difficult for this Celtics team when you're playing like last year to be good. So I think this team is just like last year. More impressive conference is going to sit them at number 10 in the Eastern Conference. All right, moving on to number 17, dropping down 5 spots, Memphis. And it's not that Memphis played bad or anything. It really just boils down to 2 things. I had them too high last week at number 12. I don't know why I put them that high, but too high for Memphis. And second of all, a lot of these other teams that I had pretty darn low are just jumping them, and I think that they're better teams. So Memphis, although they are number 17, this is not really a bad drop down. It's just me having them too high. That's the main reason. And a lot of other teams going. But Ja Morant still playing ball. This team's 3-3, and this is kind of what I'm expecting this team to be, just a 500 team by the end of the year. And that'll be able to sneak you a play-in tournament spot as a 9 seed, just like you were last year. All right, and then moving on to number 16, Wizards jumping up 3 spots. 5-1 start. Wizards are partying, and I said it. That deal for that deal to trade away Russell Westbrook and get Montrezl Harrell, Pope, I forgot who else, but that was a very good deal for this team. This team needed that. Bradley Beal is good enough by himself to be that scorer. This team just needed pieces around him. Players that can play good defense. Players that can, score, get rebounds. Just some solid players around him on that bench and that starting unit. That is the real reason that this team is better, I think. Is Russell Westbrook, I don't think, helped this team out last year. I think it's just they need a more complete roster. And I think it's turning up. I think the Wizards definitely won that trade over the Lakers. And looking very good this season. Not ready to move him up too high, but at number 16 is where they are at. Very impressed with the Wizards and their free agency this season. Very good moves by the GM. All right, moving on to number 15 will be the Blazers at 3-3. If I can find the Blazers, there they are. Trailblazers dropping down a couple spots. Kind of like the Memphis Grizzlies. It's not that I had them too high. It's not that I had them. It's not that they play bad this week. It's just because I had them too high. A lot of other teams bouncing up on them. So, yeah, the Blazers are going to drop down 2 spots at 3-3. Still the team that I know as this Blazers team keeps going on. All right, moving on to number 14, the Hornets jumping up 2 spots, continuing to impress us at 5-2. You look at the Hornets right now, a very solid team with Lonzo Ball and a good building pieces, very similar to the Wizards, but I think just overall better as we see the 5-2 record. You look at Hornets with LaMelo Ball. This is a team that has a lot of upside in the future and a team that is competitive now. Imagine this team once they start to build this roster up later on. This is going to be a very interesting team. But right now, Hornets very impressed with their start to the year. And then moving on to number 13, dropping down 4 spots, Hawks 3-3. And this is a world that I did not think I was going to get into this season. I'm going to spend some time on the Hawks. this is in the world that I did not see happening, that the Hawks would be in a play-in tournament team in my second week. But the Heat and the Knicks are playing phenomenal, and the Hawks are just subpar. So, obviously, Trae Young, insane. But right now, the Hawks aren't looking like the team that we saw last year, the better team. It's obviously early. There's only been 6 games. There's so much more games. But the Hawks still are, still are a play-in tournament team this year, just because they didn't really improve this offseason, and the Eastern Conference improved dramatically, and kind of like the Celtics. You look at the Celtics down there, with that Eastern Conference moving up dramatically, you're going to drop down from what you were last season. But the Hawks, very dangerous team, and it's very difficult to have this team right here, but it's kind of what I needed to do. All right, anyway, let's move on to this next tier. That's going to be the Lakers. I thought the Lakers had a much better week than last week, and that was true, but they're just dropping down a spot of teams jumping them that I just had way too low last power rankings. Lakers, as long as you have LeBron in the playoffs, you're going to play good. Russell Westbrook, I think, like I said with the Wizards, was not a good addition if they didn't, and they had a lot of those core pieces around them. I think this team would be way better. But, if you have LeBron James, I completely forgot his name, AD and Russell Westbrook, you're going to be good. And I doubt that they would be a play-in tournament team like last year, but especially with the West, degressing this season. All right, anyway, let's move on to number 11, the Mavericks, dropping down 3 spots. If I can get the Mavericks up there. Impressive start to the a decent start to the year for Dallas, 4-2, and this team's very similar to Atlanta in their regards. I just think Luka Doncic is the better player, but Mavs, I think you're going to be a solid team, just like last season. Again, didn't really improve, but yeah, the Mavs, good start to the year. Not much else to say about that. They're 4-2, playing solid. And then number 10, a very frustrating start for this team, the Western Conference Championships. The Suns dropping down 5 spots out of the contender list, 2-3. I mean, there's just not that gel like last season that we saw from them with Devin Booker and Chris Paul and the rest of this roster. Just needs to get better. Obviously, I do think this team can be a contender team. But the Suns, I'm not ready to overreact. They also dropped down a ton because of the other teams. But the Suns at 2-3, I think, are a number 10 team right here. I think that's just a right fit for them the way they've been playing. And then moving on to number 9, which will be the 76ers, jumping up a spot. But 76ers getting a productive week. Not much else to say about it than that. Joel Embiid got injured, but he should be back apparently. So, yeah, Sixers playing good ball. Then moving on to number 8, the New York Knicks. I just had the Knicks way too low. The Knicks at 5-1 are very impressing me this season, jumping up 6 spots. They are playing like a team that they were last year, a team that's together, a team that competes at a high level. That's really what the Knicks are, and I think they will be a 5 seed in a tough Eastern Conference. But New York is looking good. They're finally making strides to win, and that's really what New York needs. And as a playoff team, that's what they are. And moving on to number 7, which will be the Warriors, staying at the same spot. Golden State at 5-1. You look at Golden State, this is just a good team. But what else to say about that? Nothing really else. So, well, okay, yeah, never mind. So, staying at the same spot, Steph Curry, obviously playing very good basketball and proving that he is one of the best players in the league. It should be in the MVP conversation as well. Once Clay comes back, they'll be even better. But the Warriors at number 7, I already knew that this was a top 7 team. I'm pretty impressed that they were able to stay on the same spot with some of these other teams jumping up. And then, yeah, so then the huge movement here, the Heat, jumping up 9 spots. Yes, this boils down to me also having them too low, but the Heat, I mean, listen to this. They are over 17.5. That is clearly insane. How is that even possible? I don't know. But they are plus 17.5. That's the most in the NBA. Jimmy Butler is looking good. This is looking like the team, this is looking like a team that I was expecting entering to the playoffs against the Bucks last season. We didn't see that. And I think that this team is going to be a playoff team and is very close to being a contender right now. But I'm not quite yet ready to put them there. I need another week to do it. But very impressed with the starts of the year by the Heat. All right, and then let's move on to the contender tier, starting out with number 5. That's going to be the Nuggets at 4-2, dropping down 1. But Nuggets probably would have beat Utah if Jokic didn't get injured. But Jamal Murray, once he comes back, this team is a contender. That's why they're really in this contender tier. But yeah, Nuggets looking very good right there. Then moving on to number 4, the Bulls, 5-1. What a start to the season for the Bulls, and this is one of those the 5-1 team at the moment that was kind of a surprise to me, which is the Bulls, is the most confident I am. I mean, this team, that you could say that's a big 3, which I would say it is, plus Lonzo Ball, and this team is just very, very good. And will be good for a long time to come, I think, with this roster. So, the Bulls, this is a very dangerous team. You do not want to play this team right now at number 4. Bucks, bad week, 3-4. They are the defending champions. So, you got to give them that, but just a frustrating week. I still think Giannis is the best player in the NBA, but just dropping down a spot. I do think this team will bounce back. And I trust in Giannis to do so. And then moving on to the Nets, jumping up a spot mainly due to the Bucks having a frustrating week. Nets trying to get back. Kyrie starting to get in that conversation to come back with getting a vaccine at 4-3. This is probably could be the best team in the NBA by the end of the year. But obviously, number 1, the Jazz at 5-1, the last team to be undefeated. They're looking insane and definitely looking like the best team in the league. So anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hope you all enjoyed the content. Please like the video and subscribe. It helps me out. But anyway, peace out.